Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. These are the top 5 up and coming prospects for 2019. These guys have shown enormous potential, and this basically is based off a lot of feedback we've gotten from you guys, basically wanting to know what type of fighters that we should be on the lookout for, what guys have next. And so let's start the list off at number 5 is Virgil Ortiz. Virgil Ortiz has 11 wins and 11 knockouts. So every time he stepped in the ring, it's ended in a knockout. Virgil Ortiz is very good at cutting off the ring. He has an enormous size. He's at 5'10" with a 70-inch reach. He's basically a super lightweight. He's an orthodox fighter, so he's very impressive, and he's pretty good at cutting off the ring and has great foot movement. So Virgil Ortiz is definitely a guy to be on the lookout for. I think that he shows a lot of potential, and at about 15 fights, regardless if they're knockouts or not, at about 15 fights, I will look at, it's stepping him up. Hopefully he'll get many more fights next year and eventually get a step up fight towards the end of 2019. Number 4 on our list here after Virgil Ortiz is Shakur Stevenson. I'm sure a lot of people already know Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson is about 5'8" with a 68-inch reach. He's a super featherweight. He's 21 years old, and his record is 9 victories with 5 knockouts. He's shown an enormous amount of technical ability at such a young age, and he's been very impressive in his last few victories. 3 out of the last 4 fights he's had have ended by way of stoppage. Shakur Stevenson has been consistently active and showing that he also has pop in his shots. And his next fight will be in January 18th against Martin Parlagi. And so it looks like here 2019 will be another busy year for Shakur Stevenson with a lot of big fights. I could definitely see him as being one of the best fighters towards the end of 2019, looking for a step-up fight at the end of next year as well. Number 3 on our list is Joshua Kelly from the UK. He has 8 wins, no losses, 6 knockouts. He stands at 5'10". He's an orthodox fighter. He's a welterweight, and he's 24 years old. He's shown amazing technical abilities. Some people even refer to him as basically the UK's version of Vasily Lomachenko, but he's a welterweight, so he'll be stepping in with much bigger opponents. He's pretty big for the weight class, staying at 5'10". Now, Joshua Kelly is very impressive from what I've seen, and he's shown an immense amount of ability to get stoppages as of late. And so he's gotten his last 2 fights were actually stoppages, and his very last fight was a stoppage in the first round. So Joshua Kelly looks to be improving. He's ready for a step-up fight, and there's already a rumored fight. His rumored step-up fight would be against a Brandon Bam Bam Rios, just to showcase his skill set, to see where he is on a world level. So be on the lookout for Joshua Kelly, and if he gets that Bam Bam Rios fight next year in 2019, and you'll most likely see that on his own, you'll be able to see how talented this kid really is. Number 2 on our list is Anthony Sims Jr. He has 17 victories with 16 knockouts. He's extremely talented. He's 23 years old. He stands at 6'1". He's a light heavyweight. Now, let's a little bit more about Anthony Sims Jr. Basically, he is from the United States, but he's actually had fights in the UK as well. His most recent fight came in November 17th, where he ended it in a stoppage. He's basically a knockout machine, ending all of his fights except for one by way of knockout. So that's an extremely talented young man. Look for Anthony Sims Jr. on DAZN under Matchroom Boxing. This kid is going to be a superstar one day. Number 1 on our list is probably the most talked about young and up and coming prospects, and that's Teofimo Lopez. He has 11 wins, no losses with 9 knockouts. His most recent win was a first round stoppage of Mason Menard, an experienced veteran. Teofimo Lopez stands at 5'8" with a 68.5-inch reach. He's 21 years old, and this guy looks like the real deal. Now, I will tell you this about Teofimo Lopez. This is a direct quote from him. He basically, and this was in reference to what he think about Vasily Lomachenko, and he basically stated, I don't take nothing away from Lomachenko, but I just don't see anything special about him. That's all. So basically, he doesn't see any special effects in Vasily Lomachenko. Now, I have to disagree with Teofimo Lopez. I do think that Vasily Lomachenko is an extremely talented fighter. He's a very good fighter, and he's a pound-for-pound fighter. He's an elite fighter as well. Now, do I believe that Vasily Lomachenko is a power puncher and knockout artist? Absolutely not. He's basically going to hurt you and break you down with an accumulation of punches and angles. Now, he didn't look too good in his most recent fight against Jose Pedraza, but it looks like here that Teofimo Lopez is calling for that fight, hoping to get that fight. And I would like to see that fight eventually, but as of right now, I'd like to see Teofimo Lopez in a step-up fight, just to see exactly where he is and how close he is to being able to compete with a guy like Vasily Lomachenko. If we put him in there and against a guy like Ray Beltran, if he blows Ray Beltran out of the water in the first round, then at that point, I think Top Rank has absolutely no choice but to put this young guy in with a guy like Vasily Lomachenko to see if he's really even more special than we already believe him to be. I think that'd be an excellent fight, but I think the first step up test should be against a guy like a Ray Beltran, a very good veteran, a guy who's been through wars, a guy who's fought a Terrence Bud Crawford, a guy who can give you a good measuring stick of how good you can be, a guy who competed with Jose Pedraza in his last fight. I think that would be the perfect fight for Teofimo Lopez, just to let us know where this kid is. And if he doesn't perform to the best of his abilities, or if you see major flaws, then hold it off towards the end of 2019, because you have to understand that Vasily Lomachenko is a special fighter, but Teofimo Lopez looks to be the next up-and-coming thing. As of right now, I think 2019 could be a good year for him, but I think at the end of 2019, after a fight like, a Ray Beltran, a step-up fight, and one more interim fight, I think at the end of the year, depending on how he do, and if he passes those tests with flying colors, continues to get stoppages, continues to look impressive and spectacular, I think that's a fight that people should consider and take seriously. Once again, it's the Ibfp. Please share, like, and you must absolutely subscribe.